Alright, we're going to start from the very beginning with this project. So if you have the original file and you want to start at the beginning, or if you just need a refresher on the first steps that we did, this is the video that you want. We're going to start with this model in 3D solids instead of surfaces like the previous one that we did. So first step is we're going to create a new layer that we're going to be drawing our 3D frame components on. So in your layers group here, you're going to click on layer properties, and we're going to create a new layer with this new layer button. We're going to name it 3D frame. And if you happen to click off of it before you renamed it, you can just right click and then choose the rename layer option, and then you can rename it. And we're going to change the color of this to something that will stand out. I like to choose this yellow color. Alright, now we're going to click on this bracket, which is the first object that we're going to make a 3D solid. So click on that to select it, and we're going to move it to our 3D layer by going to the layers group there. Hover over the drop menu here, click it, and then choose 3D frame. What that does is if you select an object and then change the layer, it will move that object to that layer. It's just a quick way to move an object to a different layer. Alright, now that this is on the correct layer, we're going to start our first extrusion. So I'm going to just go ahead and enable the grid so we can see where our floor is. And now I'm going to extrude this as a solid. So I'm going to go to the solid tab and then click on the extrude button. This is a way to ensure that this is indeed a closed shape and it is extruded as a solid and not as surfaces. So I'm going to click on this. I'm done selecting objects, so I'm going to press enter, and now it starts to extrude in the direction that I want it to extrude. So you're pulling up, and we're going to type in 17, enter. Now this is still viewed in 2D wireframe, so I'm going to change that to see 3D rendering of this. So I'm going to go to shaded with edges, and for some reason it moved to the 0 layer instead of the 3D layer that I wanted it to be on. So I'm going to go to the home tab, select this object, I'm going to change my layer to 3D frame. Alright, I'm still on the 0 layer. Okay, I'm going to select that to make it current. Okay, so 3D frame is my current layer, so anything that I draw with is going to be on that layer. So we want to extrude this in both directions, so top and bottom. There's a couple ways to do that, but the best way with our computers, since they're not very powerful, is to use this button here, which is called Extrude Faces. It's found on the Home tab. So I'm going to click on that. This allows me to select any face and extrude it further. So I'm going to orbit to the bottom. I'm going to zoom in so I can make sure I pick the right face. And I want to choose this face here. I'm going to click. See, that was the wrong face. I'm going to click to select that face. I'm going to hold the shift key down and then remove the other face. So shift click undoes a selection. So I'm just removing it from the selection. So now I have the face that I want to extrude downward. So I'm done selecting faces. I'm going to press enter. Then I specify the height, which is the same as the other one, 17. Enter. Now it's asking for the angle of the taper. It's set to 0 and it should stay that way. I'm just going to press enter and then enter a couple more times. And we're done. So now it has extrusion above and below the floor level, which is what we want. So now we're going to focus on this tube here. We're going to model this in 3D. So first thing we need to do is align our UCS to one of these lines here. They're all parallel to what we want to extrude, our path that we want to use to extrude. So I'm going to choose the UCS tool. I'm going to choose Object from the menu at the bottom. This allows me to choose one of these lines, and it's going to align X with that line. So any of these would work. Actually, we're going to draw our circle up here. So I'm going to click on this line here to place the UCS. So the UCS is aligned this way, and this is just the symbol representing the direction of all the different axes. So we have the X, Y, and Z. If I zoom out or pan or do anything, that symbol stays in the left-hand corner. So if you want to change that, so if you want to have it appear in your drawing somewhere, then you can choose from the UCS, the Show UCS options. There's 3 of them. Right now it's just set to Show, which will show it in the lower left hand corner. You could hide the UCS if it's annoying you, or you could show the UCS at origin, which is where we clicked to place the UCS would be the origin. So I'm going to select that option. And since this is the place that I clicked to place the UCS, it's going to show up right there. Now, this is useful in visualizing what the problem is with our UCS currently. Right now it's correctly aligned, but the Z direction is the direction that we would extrude into. So if I drew a circle, I'm just going to do that real quick. So I draw a circle, and then I want to extrude this circle. Extrude. There we go. So you can see this is the wrong direction. I want this tube to go this way. And it can only extrude in the Z direction. So I need to rotate Z to go this way. Right now it's going up and down, like horizontally to where I want it to be. I want to go the other way. So if you visualize this, you want to rotate this UCS to get Z to be that direction. So you would be, if you used your hand to rotate, you would be grabbing the Y axis and rotating it around. So we're going to rotate on Y to get Z the right direction. So that is in the coordinates group here. The default is set to Y. So I'm going to click that. And now I can manually click where it's supposed to align to, which there's a dotted line that it will snap to because we have our polar snaps on, or polar tracking. So I could either click anywhere on this dotted line, or which is a 90-degree adjustment, or down here it says 90. That's an indication of the default value. So if I just press enter, it will apply the default value. So I'm just going to press enter. Now Z is in line with the direction that I want it to be. So I'm just going to get rid of this. So your UCS should be aligned this way. Z parallel with these three lines. Alright, now we're ready to draw. Okay, we're going to draw a circle. We're going to use this middle line as a reference point. And then we're going to click to the red line. And this is an instance where your UCS may be in the way and you want to hide it first. But I have a different line over here that I could use that's not hidden. So I'm going to use this one. Click there. So now I have a circle. And this is actually a hollow tube that we're trying to model. So the inner circle is going to be at this location. So we're going to offset this circle to match this dimension. So I'm just going to click on the offset button. And then it needs to know the distance first. So I'm going to use this reference point from here to here to set my distance. It's a measurement of 0.7, but I didn't know that. So I'm just clicking here first, and now I'm going to click here. So my distance is set. Now I just need to click the object that I want to offset that distance. I want to offset this object, and I want to offset it inside, not outside the original. So I just need to click somewhere inside the circle. Now it's still in the same command, so we're still in the offset command, assuming that we might want to offset this again, but we don't. So we need to press escape to get out of this command. So now we have a yellow circle here, but there's also a blue circle in the same spot. So to simplify everything, I'm just going to hide all the other layers. We're going to isolate our 3D frame layer. So I'm going to go to the layers group here, and then there's an isolate button. Click on that, and then you're going to select the layer that you want to remain visible. So we want anything within the 3D layer. So I could click this and press enter. It's going to hide all the other layers. So we're isolating to just that one layer. Alright, so now we have two circles representing the thickness of the tube that we'll be using. And we're going to first, this is a two-step process. We're going to make both of these circles a region. So I'm going to type in region, R-E-G-I-O-N. I'm going to select the two circles, press enter. So it looks like it's all one solid circle, but it's actually two separate regions. This region is the entire circle to the outward boundary there, and then the inner one is just the inner circle, but it's filled in. What we want to remain is just the space in between the two circles here. So we need to subtract the inner circle from the outer. So we're going to use a function called subtract. So there are buttons for this. There's some here, subtract, and there's also some surface. Oh, that would be trim. So we want, in the solids, there's a subtract, but this is not a solid. So I think there's a subtract somewhere in here. But I've just gotten accustomed to typing it in because it's a button that's not visible. Oh wait, it's probably one of these. No, that's solid stuff. So we're just going to type it in, subtract. Oh, here's the symbol for it. So it is over here. So you can use this button. So if you're accustomed to using buttons instead of typing stuff, here's a button for you to press. So with subtract, oh, I don't think I pressed it. Here we go. Now it's asking to select objects. With subtract, you want to select the object you want to keep. So that's important to remember. I want to keep the outer circle. So I'm going to press enter. Now we need to select the region to subtract. You want to select the inner circle. Not that one. We want this one. So what we could do is select everything and then remove the outer one. So I held the shift key down and clicked on the outer to remove it from the selection. So this is what we want to remove from the first circle that we clicked on. So we're going to press enter. I'm going to do that again just so you don't have to rewind. So subtract, select what you want to keep. We want to keep the outer region. Press enter. Now you want to select the region you want to subtract. I'm going to hover over the edge of it and click. Oh, it still selected everything. So I'm going to click. I'm just going to make sure it's selected by drawing a selection square around it. Then I'm going to remove the outer by holding the shift key down and clicking on the outer circle. So this is the region that will be subtracted when I press enter. So I'm press enter. So we can extrude this region. So we're going to extrude it. It's going to create our pipe that we want. So we're going to extrude as a solid this object. So select it, press enter, and we're going to extrude it, zoom out here, all the way through the bracket. Right now we want to trim this, and this is where 3D modeling has some limitations to it. This is, solids. We did this with surfaces earlier, and surfaces can be trimmed by other surfaces, which makes it kind of easy in the trimming process. Solids can't be trimmed by other solids. They can be subtracted. You can subtract a solid from another solid, but you can't trim using a solid. You can only trim solids with a surface. So we're going to do something called exploding. We're going to explode this bracket so that we can, it's just a temporary operation. We'll turn it back into a solid later, but we need to have a surface in order to trim this solid. So we're going to type in explode. If you just type in EX, it will show up in the list here. Explode. What explode does is it takes an object and it simplifies it to the next level. So this is a 3D solid right now, so it's going to simplify it into regions. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this to explode it and then press enter. So I'm going to hover over this to see what it is now. Oh, these are surfaces, which is good. That's what we want. So the next level down from a solid is a surface. Occasionally it becomes a region, I'm not sure why. But this time it's a surface. Oh, that one is a region. I spoke too soon. Interesting. So there may be some areas of this that are region and some that are surfaces. I think it may be the outline is a region. Yes. And the in-between parts are surfaces. So I zoom into the middle here. There should be a surface. There we go. Alright, so we're going to need to use the surface to trim our solid. So we're going to do a solid, and it's called, with solids, it's slicing. So in the solid tab, we're going to click on the slice button. We're going to select the object to slice. We want to slice this thing here. Enter. Specify a starting point of slicing plane, or we're going to choose one of the or options. We're going to choose surface. We're going to use a surface to slice our solid. So click on surface, and we're going to zoom in here to select our surface. Now it says select sliced object to keep or keep both sides. I like to select keep both sides because then I have the option to delete one or the other. So I'm going to keep both sides just to show you where it's sliced at. Right now we have two separate solids. Here's one solid, here's the other solid. We have successfully sliced it right at the surface point. So I'm going to select this solid and then just press delete to get rid of it. So now we have all of these surfaces that once were a solid that we're actually going to leave that way because we're going to need this to trim another part of the bike. So eventually we will join all of this together as one solid, but for now we're going to leave it separate. So we have one solid pipe here and then a few surfaces that make up our bracket. That's going to be the conclusion of this lesson, and we'll continue in the next one.